Welcome to the Grid Irn-Cru podcast, an NFL podcast made in Scotland by NFL lovers. This is the news crew, and I'm your host, Keith McGinty. It's the usual quiet week in the NFL. Star QBs getting shopped around, former execs accusing their old bosses of cheating, and the Jets finally get a QB, just not the one that we all thought it would be. Tonight we're going to be talking about all the latest NFL news, have a broad look at the upcoming draft, and of course we'll have our awesome Stutistic of the week. Like, subscribe and follow the crew on Twitter, Instagram, Twitch and YouTube. As always, I'm joined by usually some of the finest crew members, but tonight it is the finest crew member. I'm joined by Stu, our North American attaché, and the best thing to come out of Canada since, and I had to look this up, things that Canadians invented, the paint roller is number one. Did you know that?
Oh, aye, yeah, I did know that. That's our giant claim to fame. Although I think Canadians also claim the telephone as well, because Alexander Graham Bell, although he was Scottish, he actually carried out the first phone call from Canada, which is why Canada has +1 as their add-on to, like, in the country list when you dial up. It's Canada and the States share the +1.
You come for the NFL and you stay for the pub quiz winning knowledge that comes with
the trivia
at the crew.
That's what you want.
Have you had a good week, Stu?
It's been a fantastic week, actually. It's finally warming up. I think today it's going to reach a balmy 7 degrees. The snow's melting. By Sunday it's going to be 17, they're saying as well. So spring has finally appeared in Edmonton. I'm also just back from Vancouver as well.
Oh,
which is,
and that was with work?
That was with work, but it was actually pretty good. We'll step aside from all the training stuff. But what was good was it was like people from the company from all over North America. So I ended up having a bit of gridiron chat whilst I was there. A few of the folks, just talking to people that were fans of different teams. There was a bunch of them from the Northwest. There was obviously a few Seahawks in attendance. There was a bunch of guys and girls from Michigan. Yep, there you go. You've got the Seahawks stuff out tonight. There was a few folks from Michigan, so they were Lions fans. So it was really good. Kind of, I know I've said this before, but it's good to it's always good for to have some chat with the other embattled Big Cat teams. We can talk about shared love for DJ Chark.
Oh, nice. That's good. That's good.
So
had a good week, mate. Yeah, terrific. We're on our Easter holidays here. So the schools are off. So
spring break here. Spring break.
Woo. Yeah. Having a good time with the family. Been swimming a few times. Hopefully get a wee round of golf in next week, and just hope to get the house up to scratch. We've been in 2 years now. Really, we should have all the posters and that up the wall. That's the grand plan. So for next week, I'm hoping to have some pictures up there. I'm going to get some Seahawks stuff up there and Celtic stuff up there as well. So
that's my plan for above my guitars. Here, I'm going to put in a shelf along the top, and then the plan is I'm going to get in some of my memorabilia. That along the top there, so that we can see it in the call.
I don't know
as well. You can't see it because it's reflected in the light here, but that's my signed Pavel Nedved picture there. So I mean, not gridiron obviously, but that's one of my sporting memorabilia things. I've got that up there.
I'm going to get a wee shelf. And I'm just going to fill it just now. And this bit here, I've got all my Lego memorabilia, so Star Wars, Batman, and things like that. Marvel one. So I'm going to get them all up. Get a nice wee display. Meant to be for my oldest son, but we shared them at Christmas.
I do have a Gimli.
Nice.
Lord of the Rings figurine there.
That's pretty cool.
We're going to turn this into the Lego Irn-Cru. I've also got all my Star Wars stuff up there, but I'm not going to start pulling that down because I'll make a giant mess. But I've got an Interceptor, some Jedi Starfighters.
See, when we get into really, really struggling for stuff to talk about between now and September, I think
mug. Various lightsabers.
I'm getting a bit unsure about the Mandalorian. It's turning a wee bit into like Star Wars version of the Power Rangers. But listen. Let's
not spoil it for other people. And that's a great spin-off. We can have spinning is a good trick. That can be our Star Wars spin-off podcast.
Nice. Okay, we'll start with our kick-off question. And as you're our main Bengals apologist, I thought we'd go for a Bengal-centric question for you tonight, Stu. The big news this week, of course, the biggest news was that Joe Burrow finally topples Fiona the Hippo as the best Cincinnatian, who is the resident hippo at the Cincinnati Zoo. Finally, he has claimed top spot as everybody's favourite. Surely he's due an extension now, a bumper one to rival Lamar Jackson.
Well, I have to say, well, yeah, we'll get to Lamar, but I have to say, Rappaport got me pretty good the other day when he tweeted out. All I saw was the little notification popping up saying "congrats" or "congratulations" to Joe Burrow. So I thought, oh, is this it? Because we've been hearing rumours that the contract's coming down the pipeline, and I thought, this is it. The extension's there. We're going to find out how many millions he's signing for, and what's going to happen to T. Higgins and Joe Mixon and those other folk that are also either have money that might need to go or are going to get paid as well, or maybe not get paid. But yeah, anyhow, then it ended up being that he'd dethroned the Hippo to become the best Cincinnatian. And but yeah, congratulations to him. That's fantastic. I have to say, the Hippo is clearly a worthy winner if it's 5 years in the trot that it's been up there.
That's a sight to go and see. I do enjoy seeing the hippos at the zoo.
Same.
Probably prefer them to pandas, right enough. Pandas can be quite cute and all that, but it's so boring.
Really boring. I'm not into the pandas at the zoo. It's
Jack Black.
See, once you've seen one panda, you've seen them all.
Jack Black's got a lot to answer for. The Kung Fu Panda kind of raises expectations a wee bit too high there. You go expecting all sorts. So, what about you? Who's your hometown heroes then? Thinking of Joe Burrow now being the main Cincinnatian. You were born in
Port Hope, Ontario.
But you were formed in the mean streets of Irvine. Am I right in saying?
Yep, and now I live in Edmonton. So we should I choose one or two? Or I mean, I don't know. Port Hope. All I've got is and I don't even know her name. The actress that played Moneypenny. She lived there for a while. She's not actually from there, but that's all I've got for Port Hope. So moving swiftly on.
I've got a James Bond one for Blantyre. Then I've got Ryan Fletcher. Ryan Fletcher, nice. Known for his times in River City and Gary Tank Commander, but he was also in that Pennyworth. I don't know if you've seen that about Alfred's early days. He's Davy Boy. He's Davy Boy, the Scottish comedy best pal type thing. But he's Blantyre's one of Blantyre's famous exports just now. Of course, there's also David Livingston.
He's very famous.
Missionary. Supposedly a good guy. He wasn't fire and brimstone to when he was preaching in Africa in the 19th century. So supposedly a good guy. But there was one I was looking up there. I love this one. There's William Bawchop Wilson. I like big Bawchops there.
Great name. Absolutely fantastic name.
There you go. But we gave the world Bawchops. That's perfect. A progressive politician, emigrated from Blantyre, Lanarkshire, to Pennsylvania when he was a child. So there you go. That's our hometown heroes. Do you know what it says? He probably organised he was active in the Labour organiser, so he'd have been a Steelers fan.
He definitely was in about the Steelers. Well, I mean, I don't know if I can get on board with that one. For me, for
Bawchops.
For Irvine, I was originally going to go with Nicola, but I don't know if we'll get into that. We'll see how that goes this week, and let's not turn this into a political podcast. So I will move on to my second choice for Irvine. The thing is with Irvine, we kind of get a load of people that it's sort of almost cheating, because we were the big maternity ward for the west coast of Scotland for a while. Like, so anyone south of Glasgow was born in Irvine, so you always see X person born in Irvine, and I'm like, well, can we really claim them? It's like me being born in Port Hope, but then growing up in Irvine and really being from there. So no, I'm going to go with someone that was actually from Irvine, lived there, although he emigrated when he was a teenager. Edgar Allan Poe. I think he's the best Irvineite. Obviously, famously moved to America, and oh crap, he's maybe a Ravens fan.
I was going to say, he's Baltimore's favourite.
He's all over. Okay, Chris Boyd then for Rangers. That's the best person to come out of.
I'm going to have to find ways
Kelly
to edit
Legend.
this and get a wee bleep thing on this. Can't have Chris Boyd, no. What about Simon Neil? Lead singer of Biffy Clyro,
Simon. Well, I mean, he's another one that, like, he was born in Irvine, but it doesn't actually mean he's really from Irvine.
Okay, right.
Because he's Cobballs.
All right, we'll take it. Him or Eddie Irvine. There we go. One of the two.
Eddie Irvine, great last name.
Right, good. We have millions of pieces of news to catch up on for this week in the NFL. Really spin the wheel. Where do you want to start? We've got wow. I think we start with.
Let's
go for it. Let you choose.
I was going to say, let's go with quarterbacks. I'll pick quarterbacks for $500.
Quarterbacks. There you are.
You pick your choice of news regarding quarterbacks, because there's a few bits of news.
Well,
just pulling up.
The Pats have said that they will not be pursuing Lamar Jackson, and it came out this week that they have been actively shopping Mac Jones to see if they can get a trade for him, but then distance themselves from Baltimore Ravens Lamar Jackson, who's still trying to get either a new deal with the Ravens or try to force a trade, which it came out in the last week that he had requested a couple of weeks ago. It's interesting that it took 2 weeks for that to actually come out, though, and it just shows you how, if he's working for himself, which I believe it's himself and his mum that are doing the negotiations with the Ravens, then it's surprising that he's not leaking information a wee bit sooner. It just shows you maybe he's not that way inclined. He's trying to do it all up front, and as a last resort, just resort to actually using the media in that way. Whereas you would think that actual agents who work in the best interest of their clients kind of find ways and have these wee inroads into the media. We see it in Scotland here when it comes to the football as well. I think it would be quite interesting that it's taking that long for the information about him handing in the trade request to come out. What do you think is going to be happening there? Could you have seen Lamar Jackson as a Pats starting QB?
I mean, it's one of those things where, yeah, I could see them being, if they've decided they're moving on from Mac Jones, I can't see why they wouldn't be interested in Lamar. Because, you know, that was the part of that story that surprised me when the Pats said, we have no interest in Lamar Jackson. And then it turned around and they said, oh, they've been shopping Mac Jones. And to me, I can't say that you'd be shopping Mac Jones if you're not interested in picking up Lamar, because there's not really anybody else that's still floating around in free agency that I would say would be a good fit for the Pats or that's going to make them compete right now or compete any better than what Mac Jones can. And also, like, I know we spoke about Mac Jones a bit, and me being the apologist I am, I've kind of been, I've been one of the few, well, not few, because I guess the Pats boys have been defending him quite vociferously as well. But for me, I've been one of the Mac Jones, not believers, I would say, but I kind of put more stock in what he did his first season than what we saw last year, because let's face it, the play calling and whatever they were trying to do with their offense was all over the shop. So I don't blame Mac Jones for that. So to me, I could see, if they're shopping Mac Jones, I think they've been looking at Lamar, whether they'd say that or not. And I think also the Pats, the way they are, we know that they don't, as much as they might try and, bring players to their team, they're also not really that known for leaking things to the media all that early either. Yeah. From the Lamar side, I have to say, like, that I agree with what you said. Like, I respect him quite a bit, because I think what this does show is that he is a guy that's not, he's not exactly doing the going on his Instagram and deleting the team's name from his bio and spitting the dummy and posting pictures of himself that people have photoshopped of him in different uniforms or whatever, all those kind of tactics that whether it's players or their agents make them do. So to me, I almost find it kind of, I'm sure it's annoying for Ravens fans, but to me as an outsider, I can find it a bit refreshing that he's going, you know what, I'm going to try and keep most of this business behind closed doors, because clearly he wants paid, but I think the guy maybe does just want to stay in Baltimore at the end of the day, and that's the team that drafted him, and he's done so well with. So,
and it's the team that seems to be most set up for him as well. Interesting that the Pats have been linked with them. A couple of friends, Danny and Scott, massive Pats fans. Even their faith in Mac was a wee bit tested last year, but I think they were putting that more at Matt Patricia's
they were
feet than anything else.
Yeah, they were definitely
now,
they were in the camp of the play calling and the play design and just hanging Mac out to dry a few times as well. They didn't really give him all that much. And
you think Bill O'Brien will make a big difference for Mac this year then?
I think so. I mean, they're obviously in a tough division because like the Dolphins are going to be good again. The Bills are the Bills, and the Jets. Speaking of quarterbacks, it's kind of really for the Jets. It's dependent on what actually happens there. If they can get that trigger pulled on that big massive trade that everyone's been talking about all summer, if they do it, then I think they're going to be looking pretty strong as well. So. It's just one of those things where if I'm the Pats, I would ride with Mac because what's the point? And you don't want to flush it because the Pats aren't that far away from being good, but they are in a hard division. So you want to stay competitive and then just see what happens.
I think for the Ravens, they're kind of playing it nice and calm. They've kind of got the ball in their court just now. The Ravens GM Eric DaCosta was saying that he can see more than 4 guys in the draft who can be significant NFL quarterbacks. And it seems to be quite a stacked draft this year when it comes to QBs. There's the top 4 or 5 that everybody keeps talking about, and we'll maybe discuss a couple of them later on. But it seems to be quite cordial between them then. They're not openly saying, listen, we're moving on. Really, they should be covering their own backs a little bit. I can't see... Lamar Jackson then holding out and not turning up. I think they say it works out around about 2 million. 2 million every game if he was to sit out and miss. I can't see him. The type of businessman he is. I don't think there doesn't seem to be that animosity between them that he's trying to force it that much or sitting out for the season. I'll be interested to see what they do there. One man who used to play for the Pats, and I was thinking that I could see the Pats going for Lamar Jackson because Cam Newton was there, and you could see him being an upgrade in Cam Newton. Cam Newton's mentioned in the news this week that he has a list of quarterbacks that he'd be happy to play behind, then that he's never said that he wanted to come as a QB1 and a starter. He's happy to be. I think he realises that he's needing a payday now, doesn't he?
Do you know what? Like, I don't. Did you see any of his his kind of, I guess, his pro day type video thing he shot the other day? Like, I know, obviously, I know it's a bit. He's looking a bit off, but
it was
still
like Saturday Night Live.
It was a bit Saturday Night Live, but he could definitely throw a bomb. But he didn't look like the Cam Newton that we like MVP Cam Newton.
Twirly arms, walking back, going, I think he realises that his time out in the cold, it's time to come in, and he's happy to get a wee bench somewhere and sit and enjoy and get paid when he's seen the amount of players
get a few million a year to be, get paid a few million for a year and just try and find a good spot. And hey, maybe there's an injury, and then you can step in and do your thing.
He's proven at the NFL level. I think he just needs somewhere where he's maybe wanted the limelight's off him a wee bit, although he would prefer to have that shown on him. But
so who's his? So out of his top 10, where do you think would be the best spot for Cam Newton?
Right, let's see. I'm trying to remember where it was he said he was going to go to again. I'm
just pulling up his list again too. I knew it earlier, but
did he produce the actual list of where he would say? Yes, he named 9, right? So the 9 quarterbacks. So behind Lamar Jackson, behind Josh Allen, Fields, Chicago Bears, Deshaun Watson at the Browns, Tua Tagovailoa at the Dolphins, behind Jalen Hurts. He's not really aiming for the teams they're going to be struggling this season, one that does the Tennessee Titans, Malik Willis.
That's the one I found really that jumped out at me. That I went like, okay, that's interesting. He said, out of all the guys his name and he'd play behind, Malik was one of the ones that he said like, oh yeah, I would play behind him. And it's like, well, he's also not the starter on that team because I mean, as far as we know, it's still going to be Tannehill again this year going forward, and I don't see why it wouldn't be. And for me, I thought, well, for Malik, it's like he's in a good spot where he came out of a draft that was, as opposed to this year, and like the Joe Burrow to Trevor Lawrence, Lawrence was the next year, but out the last few drafts where there's been like a bunch of kind of good quarterbacks, that Malik year, yeah, it's not that they're bad quarterbacks. It's just they were people that maybe needed a little bit longer to develop. So like to me, I look at Malik and I think he might, in a couple of years, he might get there playing behind Tannehill. That'll be good for him. So interesting that he said he would play behind him, because to me, I'm going like, well, you're clearly not getting past Tannehill, regardless of what everybody thinks of Tannehill. The man is solid enough in the NFL, and he'll win games even on a bad team. The other thing I noticed about this list of players, like with the exception of Aaron Rodgers, a lot of them, I think it actually kind of shows, and I know Tua obviously did a lot better throwing last year, it kind of shows that he's thinking, well, what are teams that are likely to have a playbook that my style would fit? And sure, again, obviously Josh Allen is able to chuck the ball, although maybe not always that well in the red zone. But yeah, like Lamar, stylistically, he would be a great backup for him. Same with Justin Fields as well. Josh Allen too, because he has the running part down. Jalen Hurts, although Hurts was running a lot less last year. But I think Cam Newton, he could take a wee shove in the arse, like, to when they do their kind of little scrum thing to get the short yardage stuff. So it's, that maybe behind Jalen Hurts would be a good spot. Did Minshew move yet though? Or has he decided to go back to the Eagles again? Because it's like Minshew seems to really like it there, and he's fine with
has moved, and he is currently at, where is he again? He's Colts. Yeah, he's moved to the Colts.
Okay. Well, he'll be the starter there this year then.
Looks like it. Just that we were looking at Malik Willis. You were talking about Malik Willis. He'd actually got quite a good write-up when it came to the draft last year. He had 3 full games for the Titans, but not very much yardage. I know.
The Titans were an absolute bonfire last year, though, in the same way, like, they had a few injury issues. Because I think I can't remember if he played the Bengals or not, but I remember seeing Malik in a few games last year, and there was one game he looked really good, and then there was 2 games or 1 or 2 games where he was basically making rookie mistakes and on the run and getting smashed and throwing the ball to stupid places, but it was because he was rushed. And it's one of those where I was kind of going, I don't know how much I can actually put down to him not being, good, or just 3 games.
Those 3 games, he gets 3 games and 3 interceptions for 230 yards roughly. That's not a great start. It's not going to fill you with confidence. So I could maybe see him singling him out there, especially if Tannehill's not the flavour of the month there.
Yeah. Speaking of the Titans, though, I don't know if this was something I caught the other day. I don't know if you did. Yeah. And for me, it means a little bit more because there's the whole. I live in Edmonton, so we have Edmonton Oilers, so the hockey team here. So there was always that bit of tie-in, and there's also shared history between Edmonton's CFL team and the old Houston Oilers, who eventually became the Tennessee Oilers, who then changed their name to the Titans. So the Titans have announced, they basically kind of hinted that they're going to be bringing back either the helmets or the jerseys, I guess, because they posted this like oil drum, and it was like coming soon kind of thing with like oil dripping down it. So I was like, okay, kind of a bit greasy, but at the same time I'm going like, you know what? See the old Oilers uniforms? They were fantastic. Kind of thing like that, nice white and light blue, and like the.
I'm just looking at it just now. As you say, light blue jersey, the white helmet with the Oiler station stand type thing on the side there. It seems a nice All-American style uniform. Maybe Chargers would be something similar.
Chargers is kind of similar, but it's I think they could do something kind of pretty fun with it. So I expect, it'll probably be a throwback for a Thursday night or something like that. Or maybe they'll just be doing the decal and the helmets, but even that will be cool. But yeah, the shared history between here and the Oilers franchise was Warren Moon was the Edmonton, the Eskimos at the time in the 80s. He was a quarterback, and he's like one of the few guys that went from, the CFL and had a career there and been lights out, like won multiple Grey Cups, and then he moved down to the NFL and had like an absolutely sparkling career there as well. So he's like one of the guys that made it. But I don't know if that just goes back to in the 80s, the CFL wasn't really that far off
Mm-hmm.
the NFL in terms of quality. And maybe, as times went on and monies went like this for the NFL,
Yeah.
It's like the EPL and the SPL in Scotland. But yeah, Warren Moon, he broke a lot. No, I think he was like one of the first black quarterbacks to play in the CFL as well. So the guy was like kicking down kind of doors and all that. So, and then did well in the NFL too. So
I did not realise it was yourself telling us this earlier on about the Houston Oilers moving to Tennessee and then changing to the Titans. I didn't realise that. It was I've been watching one of the documentaries on Disney Plus this week. It was the Al Davies versus the NFL.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, it's absolutely terrific. If you haven't seen it, thoroughly recommend you watch it. What an absolute character Davies was, and just a agitator. And you could probably say he helped, in a way, progress the NFL into kind of what it is today. But by doing that, one of the major things was the franchises being able to move from where they were. So the Oakland Raiders moving to LA, and now, of course, his son's taken over the Raiders and they've moved to Vegas.
Yeah.
By doing that, he's actually opened the floodgates for all the other teams to do that.
Yeah. I mean,
Baltimore Colts, of course.
Yeah. I mean, part of that, like, it kind of makes me a bit sad. Like, that sort of seeing teams move always kind of makes you a bit sad. Didn't the Baltimore what were they called? Baltimore, before the Browns moved there to be the Ravens, that team used to be a CFL team because there used to be US teams that played that was the other difference. There used to be US teams that played in the CFL, and that was when it was a little bit stronger of a league. And I guess we can get this is like probably could be an entire other podcast, but essentially the Canadians shot themselves in the foot by bringing in you need to have, at least a minimum number of Canadian born players.
Amazing.
On your team. And then what happened was the American teams were winning all the time, and eventually Baltimore were like, okay, we're out of here. And I think the owners amalgamated with the Browns owners to move the Browns franchise over, and then they became the Baltimore Ravens, which is why we should probably hate them more than we hate Brian's Browns. But anywho, yeah, Brian's like supporting like a weird, it's almost like the Sevco in the NFL. You'll love it when he hears that. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the moving of the franchises. Actually, like that's something that I've still kind of. I mean, I get why it's good in some ways, but I just feel so sorry for those fans. Or if you've got an Oakland fan, say that's been like an Oakland fan for years, and they move them to LA and then they move them back, and now all of a sudden it's like, oh, you're off to Vegas. I don't know how I'd feel.
The A's as well. The Oakland A's are moving out of Oakland as well, so they're threatened to.
Their owners are an absolute. I guess I try not to swear too bad there, but I don't like the Oakland A's owner. He's not good. The biggest problem, and now we're talking baseball. The biggest problem with baseball is the owners.
Right.
If they could get the owners to actually, like the Oakland guy, just likes to sit and collect cash, and he never builds a team that can seed. It's the same with the Baltimore Orioles owner as well. Just give me my money, because they have a true profit sharing model. So like, the Yankees, obviously they can make extra money from their TV fund and the TV deal, so that's how they get their extra cash. But overall, the league has like a proper split by between everybody, ticket sale, merchandising deal.
But of course, the NFL owners are all absolute saints and should.
Of course, yeah. That's why the Bengals are so good, and the Browns make the decisions.
One other team changing their uniform ever so slightly is the Panthers, and making a slight colour correction. It's something to do with when Nike took over from Reebok, I think it was, beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
The materials that they used, they couldn't get actual uniform colours that went with the colours of the team. And so every time they had their tops and things like that, depending on the material it was, it'd be a slightly different shade, but they've managed to rectify that.
They finally managed to get like that kind of bluey colour or whatever to work or stick to it. Like,
yes. Going back to the Panthers and talking about the QBs, and we've got a theme of QBs throughout the news this week. But we're going to pivot to the Panthers' new tight end, and I know you're a big fan of him, Hayden Hurst, and he plans to become the rookie QB's best friend. I think that's a terrific move. First of all, you're very, very sad to see him leave your Bengals, but I can see.
I wish we could have had him for more than 1 year. And obviously, it's just the money didn't work out, and he completely deserves his payday. I think he was absolutely fantastic for us last year. So hopefully we can find a way to replace him, because it wasn't just the receptions, like in terms of being a QB's best friend. He's a great blocker. He's a great blocker as well. Or, like, you can just add him onto the end of your line, like that's what you do with tight ends, and you can stick him on the end there, and he almost acts as like an extra lineman. So I can see him in Carolina being exactly what he's saying. It's like he either is a security blanket catching the ball, or just adding to that offensive line and giving his quarterback a little bit more time. It's like Hurst will definitely do that. So I hope he does well. Just if we're playing them at any point, hopefully not so well against us. That's all I ask. But I still like the guy.
439 yards last season for Hayden Hurst. 8.13 yards per carry as well. 8 yards per catch.
Yeah.
Aye, impressive. I thought it'd be a really, really good bit of experience there, especially if you've got a brand new QB coming in their first year, to try and help settle them in, having strong heads around them like that. And I think someone that's got that experience, as you said, they only had the one season with the Bengals, a couple of seasons with the Baltimore Ravens, then Atlanta Falcons before going to your guys there. But hopefully next season he'll be able to set up Diggs there for a couple of seasons and get a good relationship with whoever they decide to choose with the number one.
Whoever they land with. So, yeah, but like Carolina as well, though, it's like as much as, again, we're saying rookie quarterbacks coming in, they're going to be picking high, so they get their pick of who goes in there, so they can really decide what the style of play they're going to have for the next 5, 10, 15 years. Based on that, and I do think they've made some good moves in terms of who they brought in signing wise, and that division, as we all know, is kind of it wasn't the strongest last year at all, putting it mildly. So I think that I'm not saying Carolina will go in and win the division in the first year, but I think they're well set up to whoever comes in, like year 2, year 3, they could be up near the top, and they'll definitely be pushing for the playoffs. So just take it easy and see how they go.
I think a terrific move for them. Another tight end that was on the move this summer was Patriots' new tight end, Mike Gesicki. It's not the QB that he's mentioned that he's super fired up to finally work with. It's Bill O'Brien. Big move, bringing Bill O'Brien back to the Pats after last season and the dismal performances that the Pats were having. I think it's a terrific move to bring him back, and the experience that he's got. Where was Bill O'Brien last year?
Where was Bill O'Brien last year? We need to check that. Was he...
I'll check that now. Do you think it's going to be a terrific move, as we mentioned?
Yeah. I mean, the one thing I would say, or what I was going to say there, I was just going to say there on Gesicki. The one thing that kind of signaled to me was, even beyond the Bill O'Brien move coming back, that's almost saying that we're going to change a little bit about how we look and what the makeup of our offense is, because Gesicki is a great receiving tight end, less good at doing that job I was talking about where you chip in on the line. And if you look at the few tight ends they've had, they've kind of went for those big guys. They've always went for, they can receive as well, but they kind of go for those guys that are going to help out the line and play that kind of, I guess, slower grind in football was the way they were looking. And last year, mixed in with the Patricia thing, as we mentioned earlier, it did not work out at all. Bringing in Gesicki, he's not really the traditional kind of tight end that the Pats employ. So to me, that kind of signals that they're definitely going to move on, and they're going to be trying out some new stuff this year. So maybe we're going to see a more adventurous kind of, like, what year was that where Brady was that 24? Was it the 2014, 2015? Like in round about there, where the Pats are like high octane offense, and then that kind of went away and they went back to the sort of kind of more grindy out type stuff, little balls over the top to Edelman. So I wonder if we're going to see a bit more action from the Pats going forward this year. It'll be a lot more exciting than 9-6 victories or whatever it was that Danny and Scott saw when they were out.
That's right. Well, that was terrific. What an experience that would have been. They've added to their wide receiver core with Juju Smith-Schuster. They already got Devontae Parker. You're looking for them to probably be either going to free agency again or maybe try to pick up a wide receiver in the draft, you would imagine.
Yeah, I have them like possibly drafting a wide receiver. Maybe not first round, but it depends who's sitting there, because if one of those high end wide receivers is sitting, because the Pats are
14th. They've got the 14th.
Yeah, they're right in the middle of the round kind of thing. So it's, maybe GSN slips. Kind of thing. So it's like, because I had him sitting somewhere in the 11 to 13. Only takes one spot more, and then all of a sudden he's sitting there for the Pats. I don't know if I'm them. I don't think I would resist taking probably the top wide receiver option in the draft if he's there. Although Grant would have us believe that he's going to the Bears along with all the other wide receivers that they have. We need more weapons. Fields needs more weapons.
Speaking of top wide receivers, sad to hear that one has said that he's going to retire today. Tyreek Hill, the cheetah himself, said he's going to retire, but
with an asterisk.
Don't have to worry too much, Finns fans. It's not going to be until 2025, so we've got another 2 seasons of the cheetah doing his thing with Tua. What's that? Two more Super Bowl rings for him then in the next couple.
Why, for sure. Definitely. I mean, that's with Cheetah though. It's like he definitely didn't show any signs of slowing down last year, and then he had his whole even the magic somehow appearing from a ruck of people with the ball touchdown as well, and then sprinting the length of the field with it. That was probably my favourite Cheetah moment last year.
Right.
But yeah, it's 5 years, fair enough. I think he could probably stay fast for 5 years. Like he looked pretty good when he did that. What was that, 60 or 80 meters sprint?
No, not 5 years, 2 years. 2025. 2025 at 31. At the age of 31, he's planning to retire. Last year he got 1,710 yards.
Yeah. He could definitely keep it up for 2 years, but I mean, we'll see if he actually does retire in 2 years' time, because I'm not sure I believe it. Because if he's still playing the way he is right now, then I think he'll keep going for another few years after that. So I doubt that there's that. I don't know why he's even talking about retiring right now. Is that slow news day? Is that why he just decided I would throw that out there?
Must be.
Hey,
I also saw a video.
Yeah, the video of him with the Browns fan.
Yeah, it would have been interesting to see that. I imagine that the Browns wouldn't have been able to pay for him, Watson, Chubb, all the other ones there at the same time.
Myles Garrett, like all these people. Yeah. They've only got $7 million odd in cap space remaining or something like that. I think I saw. Plenty running around.
It'd be interesting to see. I'm sure he'd even made Baker look good with his time there. Another QB in the news who is continuing to recover from his surgery is a 49ers QB, and if rumours are led to believe he's going to be QB1 when he comes back, is Brock Purdy. He looks like he's got a robotic arm after elbow surgery, so I think we'll have to...
say we'll see if that's cheating or if whether he's going to get all that hardware taken out. Obviously,
build them bigger, faster, stronger.
Yeah. The $6 million Purdy.
I'll be quite interested to see. Do you think it'll be him or Lance? Do you think the Niners will maybe look to get another QB in this year?
Well, if rumour is correct, and I know this is a guy we're going to talk about, they've apparently been talking to a local boy and fan of the team, Aaron Rodgers. Apparently, he's been sounded out, seeing as he has not committed to the Jets as of yet, or that trade hasn't went down. But like I say, that's a rumor, so I have no sources to verify that other than I saw people talking about it on Twitter, and I thought, yeah. I mean, I could see it. Like, he's been linked with the Niners every single year for the past 5 years. If you ask any Niners fan, they're always talking about him going there. So, do I think he'll actually go? No, because the Niners don't have enough draft picks. Well, they do have enough draft picks, but there are lots of late round picks kind of thing that they could use.
Yes.
But who knows how much the Packers are actually going to get for Aaron Rodgers at the age he is. He is a very, very good quarterback though, so I think they're going to get more than some 4th and 5th round picks. That's what I would say. I think there's at least a second in there somewhere.
I think this is just want to kind of give a wee prod to the Jets that if they're not going to kind of force the issue, then he'll maybe be going elsewhere, and something to kind of push everything back into action, because it has been really, really quiet. Yeah, I've not heard the McAfee podcast from today to find out the latest, but
what he's doing now, or what he's been doing with his spring break kind of thing. But,
yes,
yeah. I mean, going back to what we're saying though with Lance and Purdy, it's one of these things where Purdy's clearly, I mean, he took the team to like a championship game.
Yes.
He was third man up, of course, like after Lance went down injured and then Jimmy G went down injured and then he came in. But, he did it over a bunch of games. It wasn't like he walked in and had, at the start of the playoffs and had a lucky couple of games. Like the guy, he played how many? 6 or 7 regular season games? Something like that in the end.
Just checking the now, yeah.
I remember some argument for him to get like Rookie of the Year. But...
He came in from week 13 against the Dolphins. Threw for 210 yards in that game.
Yeah.
The only time it went under 200 yards was against the Bucks in the last game of the regular season against the Cardinals. But I think they were protecting him a wee bit there in the Cardinals game. That one didn't really mean anything, seeing how they made it to the off season.
Yeah.
Then, as you said, the wild card game against the Seahawks, 332 yards and 3 touchdowns. Then against the Cowboys, another 214 yards.
Cowboys kind of did some funny stuff in that game, which sort of led to those lower totals. They kind of made it a bit easy for the Niners. So.
But then beaten by the Eagles in the last game. But again,
beaten and broken by the Eagles.
Beaten and broken only. 20. I forgot he got injured in that one.
I remember that's how his arm ended up the way it is. But yeah, like for the Niners though, I would say right now they're saying all the right things, because it's that kind of thing of, well, the guy took you there, so of course you're going to say, oh yeah, he's our number one. However, if he's not ready for the start of the season, which is a real possibility with the nature of that injury, and Lance starts the year for you, if Lance starts game 1 and then game 2, if he's played well, how can you take him out? And he's also he's a first round draft pick, so there's a lot of kind of gloss and shine on that name still. Even though I know he's not really done much in the NFL so far, he's been a bit unlucky with injuries. For you, if you were the head coach, if Lance, let's say they've won their first 2 games and Trey Lance has ran with the ball loads and threw a bunch of touchdowns to Kittle, Samuel, and whoever else, do you think you could pull him out and throw Brock in, or are you just going to keep riding with him until he gets injured again, maybe, or rides out the season?
No, you've got to go with Lance then. If he's the guy in possession of the shirt and he's playing well, then of course you've got to ride that hot ticket there. I'm going to throw a wee spanner in the works there. You're forgetting that they also have Sam Darnold.
That's
and
right.
Their QB,
I forgot about Darnold. I mean, you know what? Darnold is finally going to get his chance, and that's the thing. What happens if Darnold walks in and does well? Does that mean Brock's really good, or is this all the questions come back out again of like, oh well, it's really just the offense that team is doing so well that they're dragging him forward, and that's what's winning them games. Any quarterback could do it.
Listen, you've got Samuel Ayuk there as well, and you've got, of course, Christian McCaffrey there. They'll be fine. Whoever they've got is in their QB there, they'll be all right. And I hope, because of the promise that we saw with Brock Purdy, and I think it's the story that goes with it as well, being the forgotten man, Mr.
Irrelevant, which I think they need to retire that, because like there's so many players now that end up going undrafted.
Yes.
And then have fantastic careers. It's like it doesn't really, being the last pick of the draft doesn't really have the same terrible name to it as it used to. Because I mean, really, it's a good thing, because it shows that you're still good enough to hand a rookie contract to, even if you're a 7th round pick.
Yeah, it's still it's a nice story, and that's what the NFL is wonderful at, wrapping it up beautifully. Going from Mr. Irrelevant to the number one pick in the overall draft, that was Trevor Lawrence. He was saying that he's super excited after his first throwing session with Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley, of course, returning to the game after how many seasons out?
Just the one.
Just the one.
Yeah,
one full. I think there was a couple
one
of
full
games
year.
as well.
Yeah, a few
one
games, but like
out.
last whole year he missed, and then he was banned for a bit at the end of the previous season.
Is that too long to be out, do you think, or?
No, I think that, for Ridley, it's like Ridley clearly, because there was enough interest, Ridley has clearly been keeping himself in good shape. And I think because of how he was kicked out of the league, he's going to come in here with an absolute fire in his belly, and he's going to play as hard as he possibly can. So I can believe what Trevor Lawrence is saying when he put it out there that he was really excited after that first session with him. Because, I mean, now you've got Lawrence and you've got Kirk there. Who's their
Zay Jones?
Zay Jones as well, who looked great last year.
Running back.
Yeah. ETN, the Jags they're looking good.
Yeah,
the thing I'd be excited if I was a Jaguars fan. So.
Certainly a team to look out for when it comes to your fantasy teams. This
definitely. I mean, I was a Kirk truther last year, and that worked out pretty well for me. So
did well. It's a great spot. Ridley hasn't played since October 21. The season before 2020 season, it's 1,300 yards, 1,374. So he's proven at the top level that he can do it. It'll be interesting to see if he can how quickly he can get back to those standards with the Jags. The Jags this time. Aye, very interesting.
Yep.
Just a few more wee bits of news that we go over then. The Bills' new stadium has been agreed with the state and the county. Have you had a wee look at this? I know you're
I have, yeah.
big fan of making sure that it's not a dome.
That's exactly it. I was going to say the very first thing I did as soon as they said, here's the plans and it's approved, I went to look at it. I'm like, does it have a roof? And it did not have a roof. So I was like, this is great. We're still going to get our snow games. It's like, so that's something, I think that's the local conditions is a magical thing in the NFL or in any sport, because it's like, you want to see, I know obviously games can get cancelled if there's too much snow and all that, but there's something special about seeing a snow game as well.
Absolutely.
And it's like, it's part of the, I know people go, maybe we can't throw it as much. The snow games we had this year, people were still chucking the ball about. Like the Finns were going for it, the Bills were going for it. So it's like it's not just the ground and pound thing that used to happen back in the 60s and 70s. Like, so yeah, no, to me, I think the stadium looks nice. If I'm a Bills fan, I'd be delighted. They'll seem mental anyway, so they're probably happy there's no dome. I think they like being cold. So
yeah, absolutely.
They're practically Canadians. They're just across the lake to Toronto anyway. Like probably half the crowd are from Toronto actually, now that I think about it. So.
I was really looking forward to it. It was rumours it was going to be a snow game last season between the Bills and the Bengals. So we just have our second son, and we're still on paternity leave at the time. So we stayed up quite late, my wife and I, just make sure he was all right. And I was waiting for the game. I was looking forward to it. And that was the one that Damar Hamlin had that horrific health scare and injury. And it was, first of all, you're looking forward to the snow game and everything that comes with that. But then the drama that came from
it was terrible. Yeah.
But like you said, all the different teams and the different stadia and how the conditions play into the home team's advantage, going from the extremes of the Vikings and the Bills on the north there to the Dolphins in Florida, who strategically made sure that the home team are in the shade.
Yeah, and the visitors benches.
And it gets even warmer there. It's an actual heat trap there. It's brilliant. This all adds to it. And then you've got the Finns going up north, and I wish it was colder. Mike McDaniel was saying, terrific. I love all the wee mind games that goes with it all. Terrific.
That's like one of the fun things in the CFL, because obviously their season, because partly it's to kind of keep it a bit away from the NFL. They do like a summer season. So right now we're actually kind of starting to ramp up, like all the free agency stuff's happening in the CFL.
Yep.
And they're heading towards like the spring training camps, because the season starts in May. So they get going then, and it runs all the way through. So by the time you play the Grey Cup, that's in November. So depending where it is, you can end up with, like, there's been years where it's been here, like in Edmonton, and it's been minus 30 kind of thing, then wind chill on top of that. And it's like the fans are still there, and they're all up, higher up in the stadium, and you're getting blasted by the cold. But one of the things I like seeing during those, like, kind of late October or November games is you see whenever the players are off, whether it's defence or the offence, come off the field, they basically have for both the, Edmonton's nice, they give it for both the home and the away teams. There's these great big kind of jet engine space heaters. Yes, all behind the benches. Terrific. So you just see all the players like running over, holding their hands in front. All the receivers are there, like rubbing their hands in front of it, kind of thing. And the kickers there kind of trying to warm up his hammies and to make sure that he's not going to pull one when he's trying to kick a ball in minus 30. So
I used to work for a place years and years ago, and I think it was 16 at the time, and they had one of them in the yard, and that's amazing, that thing. I think
that's great.
My tracky bottom started to melt a wee bit, and shell shoot time. It was a fire hazard, everything, but wonderful! What a thing.
Remember shell suits? I used to
make a comeback. See my vintage.
I was going to say, I used to have an absolutely fantastic, like, kind of. It was almost like, remember the Scotland top? There was like the purple and pink and white, like that one, obviously.
The tracksuit to go with that.
Top. So it wasn't quite that, but it was the same color. It didn't have that mad pattern, but it was like the same colours, like the purple and pink, kind of black stripes and stuff like that. I loved that shell suit. It was great.
Oh,
but you're right, though, total fire hazard. Like, everybody smoked back then. No, us, we were Wales, but like, right. Everybody smoked back then too. So it's like, I wonder how many folk ended up big giant burn holes in there.
Last wee bit of news then, we've got Austin Eckler. He's been, the Chargers had allowed him to see if he could get a trade elsewhere, but no takers. The man that is the fantasy miracle is not find a new home for himself, and he's saying he may have to play one more season with the Chargers. Is that a sad thing, do you think, or turn out it could be quite good for the both of them?
I mean, it's obviously good for the Chargers because they're keeping Austin Eckler around, and him and Herbert have done pretty well together. Eckler's always good. It's one of these things where I never really understood why he was even looking away. Because again, the Chargers, sure, they seem to love shooting themselves in the foot. So I mean, maybe that's part of it. But I couldn't see any team that's a contender having enough cap space to go and trade for him. He's good, but he's not McCaffrey. You know what I mean? It's not McCaffrey, because the Niners obviously went out and got him, and that's made a huge difference to their team because it's given them that guy that can sort of kind of take them over the hump. For teams like my own, like the Bengals, we already have Mixon on big money. Because I saw people started talking about, imagine we could get him as well. We could be like the Browns with Hunt and Chubb. And I was just sitting going like, well, one, we don't really pay that much money for folk, and there is no way if we're getting Eckler on a trade, Mixon's getting cut the exact same day or the day before.
Exactly.
I think there's no way we're keeping both. So it's the nature of the running back position, I guess. Like,
but it's not as if he's a RB stud. I
mean, he is in fantasy, but I'd love to have him in fantasy.
He's incredible. 13 touchdowns last season, but only got 915 yards. So didn't even break the 1,000 yards there from 204 attempts. Receiving yards only at 107 as well. So it's not as if he's it's not as if he's really like contributing massive scores that way or helping the team get fully up the pitch there. But as long as he keeps scoring the fantasy points, he'll be great collateral whenever it comes to fantasy time again.
Of course.
See what happens there, whether he stays or he goes. Was there any other bits of news that you noticed there?
I think we kind of touched on all that. I mean, I guess the Jets signing a quarterback, we never named him earlier on. We talked about Aaron Rodgers a bit, potentially going to the Niners, but that one big thing was the Jets.
Yeah, Tim Boyle has signed a 1-year deal, teaming up again with Nathaniel Hackett.
Where did he play with Hackett?
Would have been at the Packers, Green Bay Packers.
So there you go. So that's the only thing that makes me kind of perk my ears up a little bit with that, because I'm like, okay, well, clearly he's he's a backup because it's like they're kind of clearing out the quarterback room a bit. Like Mike White was good, but he's gone, or I think he's gone.
Yes, he's at the Dolphins.
Yeah, Milf Hunter is out in the cold despite still being there. But he's kind of definitely not as, he's not flavour of the week at the Jets anymore. So
no.
We've seen Boyle and seen he's a Hackett guy, and he's not a Hackett guy. I don't mean it that way, but he's a Nathaniel Hackett guy. Having him there, that to me says surely this. I would like them just to end this Aaron Rodgers thing. I just want it done now. Actually, let's just put that out there. I'm kind of fed up talking about it. I just want to get to the talking about the Jets bit, and then let's move on, get to next season.
It just needs a conclusion there, doesn't it, really?
It'd be good if it was before the draft, because I'd like to see the Packers get stuff so we can start thinking about, how's this going to impact who's taken where, or is it going to bump things around in the second round because they have different needs, that kind of
thing. That brings our news part of the podcast to an end here. We'll pivot now and have a wee look towards the 2023 NFL Draft, which is a matter of 21 days away, 3 weeks tonight. We'll be getting the first round of the 2023 draft will be starting. I'm quite excited for this one. Season, I watched last year's. I didn't take as much interest as I have this year. I didn't really look into who could be getting signed, but this year I've been listening to all the podcasts and I've got a good idea of the first round pick, certainly. I've already done my first fantasy draft of the season, so I've got a wee idea of some of the sleeper options that are available for people as well. So, but Stu, I'm looking for your help to give us a wee rundown of how it will unfold and what the structure of the NFL draft is for those who are maybe just coming to it. Again, there'll be quite a few new listeners to the NFL, and we're hoping to impart a little bit of knowledge on there. I'm certainly still learning myself. So it's split up into 3 days. Mm-hmm. How many rounds is there?
7 rounds in total.
7 rounds. So depending on the team's position of where they finished the previous season, depends on when they get to make a pick. It's for a country that hates the S word so much, it seems quite socialist of them.
Yeah, it's also kind of helping the lowest up, if that makes sense. Yeah. Like, so obviously, if you have a bad year, you're going to get a higher draft pick unless you trade it away. So yeah, because obviously, picking first overall this year, after they traded it, the Bears were picking first overall, and they traded it away for a
thanks to Lovie Smith.
Yeah, thanks to Lovie Smith. Like that, the Houston Bears hero, he's getting his statue outside. They traded it away, so now, as we mentioned earlier, it's Carolina that are picking first overall. But yeah, so it basically goes in reverse order to where people finished the play. It's not from regular season strictly though, because what ends up happening is down to how teams have done in the playoffs. That impacts the later stage of each round.
Yes.
So, for instance, obviously the Chiefs won this year, so they're picking 32nd, and the Bengals would be picking 31st. Of course, this year, though, it's not quite that, because you can ask your question here. I know we spoke about this briefly before we come on.
The Chiefs are picking 31st, so something happened with the Miami Dolphins, which meant they lost their pick. What was the story behind that?
That was were they tapping up Tom Brady? Was that the thing that cost them it? It was they were having conversation, like naughty on the side conversations with someone that they shouldn't have been having. They got caught, and as a result, the league stepped in and said, "You're not getting your first round draft pick this year in 2023." Which, if you think about it, that's quite the punishment, especially when you consider, like, for example, we made free agency open this year, so they have the what is it they call it, the official designated tapping up conversation time, which sort of happens before real free agency. The amount of deals that I get announced in the first 10 minutes of that, like, tapping up stage makes me go like,
of course.
Hold on a minute here. I'm like, surely people have been having conversations before that timeline is open. So, I can understand maybe if the Dolphins maybe felt a bit aggrieved that they were called out, although they were maybe a little too public. It's Tom Brady.
I think they say it's from like Combine. That's when the tap up tends to really start there. They
did it mid-season. Yeah,
exactly.
That was where it went wrong.
It's interesting though that the Dolphins would have had the 21st pick as well, so
which is quite valuable.
They had a good season. And they could have even used that to trade up a wee bit higher if there was someone that they were interested in getting to. So that could have been an offensive lineman that they were really interested on.
Yep. Or definitely, especially in that range. It's like there's a few of the spacing on names right now, but like obviously I've been doing a lot of mock drafts since the Bengals lost out, and in that kind of 20 to 40 pick range, there's a whole bunch of players I've been kind of zeroing in on who might be available when the Bengals pick, but those guys would obviously have been available when the Dolphins are picking. So like I think there's Antoine Harrison. Like he's a tackle that he might have kind of done a good job for them. And that same thing of, like you said, they could have traded back, but it's just funny how that one thing, them screwing up and doing something they shouldn't have, it's now going to impact things by, they obviously don't get their pick, but then these players that might have been, if they took a guy, everyone's now bumping back a thing. So it's maybe the difference between a team getting a guy they were looking at or having access to a guy that they didn't think they were going to get before, like in the next 10 picks. There's going to be a lot of variance in terms of what people's lists are like, team by team.
The first round's a big one. That's the teams get their main pick, the one that's really you think there's going to make a difference to their team. That's the one that's going to plug that big hole that's in their roster somewhere.
Yeah, or walk into the team.
The first 10 you've got then. So Panthers have traded up from 9th to the first from the Bears. They've swapped places. So Panthers in first, second is the Houston Texans, third is the Cardinals, fourth Indianapolis Colts, and then fifth, and I love this, is my Seattle Seahawks, who have got Denver's pick this year.
Thanks to
the
Broncos.
Not only did they have a honking season with us, but the gift that keeps on giving is we got their number one pick for this season up to fifth. That they had a really good season last year with the draft picks that we chose and managed to bed quite a few of them into the team. But the fact that we've got the fifth pick as well, if we choose, could maybe look to the future even more by possibly getting quite one of the highly rated QBs that is in this draft. It just depends on what the needs of the teams above us will be.
Yeah, it depends on whether Arizona, because I don't think they're going to go for. I know Kyler's injured and coming back from injury, but they've paid him. He's clearly the guy there for the next while. They have new coaching staff that are coming in, and they're looking at Kyler as the guy. So the only thing I think that
depends if Kyler's up for answering the call of duty to play for.
Yes. Will he be part of the vanguard? Pulling out the Call of Duty jokes now. No, I was going to say, like, if Arizona maybe trade out for another team further down the list that want to move up, maybe that changes what the Seahawks do, because I could see them take the quarterback fifth overall. Not to play. The thing is like for them, they're really lucky in that they can be assessing guys right now, and they don't need to go for like Stroud or someone who's maybe NFL ready, or potentially NFL ready straight away. It's like they have Geno. Geno was great last year, so why not? They've signed him to a 3-year deal. So bringing in a rookie who is maybe a bit more of a project, like is it Richardson, or I forget his name.
Richardson, Anthony Richardson.
I know everybody's obviously salivating over him, but the good thing with him from a Seahawks perspective is he's a bit younger than some of the other quarterbacks, so you maybe don't want to rush him. His throwing, he does have an arm, but it wasn't as accurate as you would like to see. He has the running stuff down. He's the perfect guy to slot in, and even he probably knows that there's some things in his game that he needs to develop. So if I'm him, I'd be like, okay, cool, I get to go play behind Geno, who, he was great, but also isn't maybe an insurmountable roadblock kind of thing. So play behind him for 2 years, learn everything you can from a great pro, and then walk into a team that's like clearly going to be set up to keep going.
The thing is with Richardson, if it was to go to him, not just the arm, where he can learn the accuracy, you would hope be able to coach that into him a wee bit more. But he's also got the threat of being an electric runner.
Yeah, he's a great
that's something
athlete.
that
Yeah,
exactly his combined scores, his vertical jump and things like that was unreal. I actually managed to catch that live. I tuned in to NFL Network on the day and seen some of that, and it was unreal. Some of the work that it was doing there. Another name that interests me though is Will Levis. I keep going to call him Levi's. Will Levis is another one who you could think that could be a bit of a
project. I mean, he's good. He's good. Yeah, he's good, but he's a guy I think that would also benefit from maybe having a year or two behind someone else, and then he'll be ready to go, kind of thing, rather than just like walking straight into the league and or, doing what we did when it's kind of like the way I saw Malik Willis last year, like that same thing of like we saw what he did when he came into the league last year. We talked about it earlier. He wasn't that great. Levis, he might come in and be like lights out, but I think it would be safer to let him learn with a team, learn behind another solid quarterback, and then when his time is right, he's going to take the ball and run with it, because he looks good to me as well. Like he looks like he could get there eventually.
I think what we'll do next week is we'll have a wee look at the players and the positions and the main names that we think will be going in the draft. It's really interesting. As I said, there's been quite a few names that you're kind of salivating. You're really interested to see where they go. Levis was.
Yeah, I'm still on the. That's the kids have just got back from school. So.
Talking about the draft though. So as we said, that the first round you've got everybody getting their own picks. That's on the Thursday. On the Friday, you've got the second and third rounds.
Yeah.
And it's late in the third round that the 49ers will really come into their own.
They start picking. Yeah.
Yeah, because they've done so well with their coaches that other teams have noted that, picked them. I think you'll find the Eagles are going to have a bit with this as well. The Chiefs, Bieniemy going to the Washington Commanders as well, where teams are compensated for losing such talented coaches with the draft capital in the later rounds there, and the third round onwards, which I think is a really, really good way to for teams to claim some back there, because you're not really going to get the monetary value whenever the coaches move on, but the benefits then is you're kind of building for the future, and that's allowing teams like the 49ers to do it.
Yeah, because they seem to have just turned into every single year. It's all. I mean, it's the way the Pats were for a long time as well, kind of thing, where you just have this big turnover of all the coaches that have done pretty well, and the teams that have done badly are obviously going to go talk to players from teams, coaches from teams that are successful. So yeah, I like that too. Like I like the fact that the teams get something back, and the difference between the NFL and the NHL, they've changed this rule in the NHL now, thankfully. There used to be a rule where if a coach or an executive moved from one team to another, like if he still technically had a contract, even if he was like basically told you're fired kind of thing by his previous team, like we don't have a job for you anymore.
Yeah.
There would be a draft pick sent across. So for instance, when I first moved to Edmonton, a guy, Peter Chiarelli, moved from the Boston Bruins to the Edmonton Oilers to become their general manager. And that resulted in the Oilers having to give up their second round pick. And it's like, in hockey, second round, same as the NFL, like second round pick's probably a player that's going to help you out sooner rather than later, like in the league.
Yeah, of course.
I think it's not like it's a nothing kind of thing, but it was, the way I like it in the NFL though, is they add the picks on at the end of the round. So it's just basically a case of like, okay, what's this coach done? Is he worth a third round pick or a fourth round pick? And the same thing for players, like, okay, this player you've got, he's an RFA. He's going to that player's going to kind of move on to this team, so he would have been worth this. So cool,
Yes.
you're going to get a 5th round pick, or say it was T. Higgins or something. Be like, okay, you're going to get a 3rd round pick because you weren't able to keep his contract in your team, and he's been off and joined the Bears to be with every other wide receiver there. So I like the fact that there's no punishment though for the team that are signing him, and it's just there's an extra pick, and it's probably also good for if you think about it, it's great for the college athletes as well, because I know we talk about Mr. Irrelevant from last year, Purdy, when he was the last pick in the 7th round. If you think about it, like if it was back 20, 30 years ago before they did the compensatory pick thing, he wouldn't have been picked at all. I think he would have been much further down because there's only so many draft picks.
You'll find quite a lot of the players that do get that chance, though, that there will be players will be cut, but it's about giving them that chance to experience training and playing with proper NFL players. Maybe they have shown at college, they might not be able to make that step up. Some of them will take them a wee while. They'll make the step up, but maybe in a year or so's time, they'll maybe join some practice squads or something like that. So I'm going to come to you now before we finish up for your statistic of the week.
Okay, so my statistic of the week is actually related to exactly what we have been talking about, compensatory draft picks.
Terrific.
So the number 1 team with most compensatory draft picks since 95, which is when I think it all started, is none other than the Baltimore Ravens. They've had 53 in total since they started out. And that's obviously the Ravens have had a lot more good years than bad years since they moved from Cleveland and became the Baltimore Ravens. It's like one of those things where, they've kind of they've done pretty well. So it's that kind of same thing of what we're seeing now with the Niners, where a lot of it's coaches as well as players, because they've had a lot of good players. I think that have kind of came through the works, like Hayden Hurst that we mentioned earlier on.
Exactly.
As well. So that was my statistic of the week. Ravens have had the most. Do you want to know who's had the least?
Go for it. I'm trying to think if there was anyone that would stand out to me. I would go for the Cardinals.
The Cardinals are actually above the middle, immediately below. They have 26 in our history. Above them is the Niners with 29. So
they've got 3 from 96 to 100 this year.
Well, there you go. They're adding to the list. Lowest is the Saints. They've only ever had 9.
Oh, wow.
So I don't know if that's because they keep signing their players or whether because they just let guys go and nobody's signing them. It's kind of like when their players bomb, they bomb. Second lowest is the Browns, which is actually who I thought was going to be worst because they've been so they're also kind of a slightly newer team in the franchise coming back. So because I don't think they were back in '95. So yeah, I thought they were going to be up there, but the Saints being the lowest is kind of surprising to me. But hey, that's what it is.
Fantastic, Stu. I love that. Thank you very much. It has been for only 2 of us. I think we've kept that going quite well. There's been plenty to talk about, as it seems to be every week in the NFL. So thank you very much for joining me this week, mate.
Yeah, most welcome. It's also been surprisingly more amicable than it usually is. I'm normally used to getting a bit of abuse from other members, whether it's Studs or Brian or not Liam. No, Liam's usually he's nice.
He's a nice
we got
boy.
on well.
He is a nice boy. He's a good guy. They're just agitators. Those ones. They're trying to be the shock jocks, right? We'll work. This has been a great conversation. I've really enjoyed that, mate. Thanks very much. Thank you very much for listening. If you've enjoyed listening, please like and subscribe to the crew. You can do that on YouTube. We're on Twitch, and follow us on Twitter at Grid Irn-Cru. Would love you to get in touch, get your questions across to the crew, and we'll get them answered for you during the podcast. And we'll be a wee bit more active over the social media in the following weeks anyway.
Time to ramp up again. Season's coming.
I think, especially as it's coming up to the draft, we'll certainly be doing
I love the draft.
some more podcasts. We're going to get a special guest on next week. I had a message before we started, so look forward to a special guest being on, and we will be having a wee look at the draft as it comes up, previewing that, and we'll be doing a lot more coverage of the draft and some live shows during it, after it as well. So lots to look forward to from the crew. Long time till I think it's 7th of September, the first game back will be. But don't worry, the crew will get you through. Thanks very much for listening, and speak to you next week.